Welcome to the Blackburn End Podcast. Well, then, it's a new feeling. We have some positives to talk about. We have some points in the bag, so let's get into it. So, Rovers take all 3 points at home to Southampton. Gudjohnson caps off the comeback with the winning goal. Gung-ho is out for the foreseeable future with an injury, but Campbell is close to a return. Ismaël says it's stupid to say the squad is weaker, but we guess time will tell. And we will announce the Terrace competition winners. So, Mark, a win to feast on this week.
Oh, mate. 9 points off playoffs, game in hand, back on track. This is what it's all about.
Exactly. If we don't have positives to talk about, what do we have to talk about? So let's get into it from the off. Obviously, we go and play a team that's not in the greatest form themselves. There was a lot of people discussing about this game being one that we would be scuppered with based on what we saw last week. But we come away with the win. Let's see what our initial match reactions were.
I didn't think it'd be going like this when I was about to voice note you, Michael. I thought first off, I posted, it was a line in the sand that for me, the players didn't look like they had any belief from the start. And that usually comes when we go 1-0 down. I can't believe Armstrong hasn't scored one of them, but I can't believe Marish didn't score his. I'll be honest, I think we've run into a team that was worse than us today, and it's very fortunate that we've done so. But we said we needed a win from somewhere. I've just had a look at the table. Only 10 points, well, 9 off the playoffs, but 10 with goal difference. But we'll sort that out with our game in hand, won't we, as well? So, Bristol away, anyone?
Well, okay. Well, let's start from the start. It wasn't the best of games, quality-wise. There were so many missed chances from both teams, but I'm just delighted that for once the luck went our way and it wasn't us having a terrible second half. That where we folded, it was the other team, and it was nice to watch. Okay, we're papering over cracks and so on. Some people are saying we got away with it, but we showed character. We got the win, and last year we had something similar with, I think it was Sheffield Wednesday game where we were 2-1 down. We managed to come back and get a draw, and it just changed the character of the game, the players. Hopefully this does the same, because by God, we needed something. But the one thing I'm just coming away with is just generally football quality nowadays is just not there. And that, I don't care what level I'm watching, the quality just seems to have gone down. I don't know whether it's nostalgia bias or what, but if you're athletic, you seem to get an opportunity to play. But no, that's another rant for another day. But yeah, I hope this is the start of something new. I really do, because as fans, we deserve something different, and we just need to be happy and not focus too much on the negatives, because if we keep focusing on the negatives, then we're not going to be able to enjoy the positives. So yeah, let's break this one down. Well, the first thing I'm going to take from that is I think I need to record my sound differently, because it keeps having those real random spikes that absolutely breaks people's ear rolls. So apologies for that one. You've had a chance to settle, watch the game again. Yeah. My initial thoughts were terrible football match until about 30 minutes to go, and then we woke up.
Yeah, I've watched it back a few times, to be honest. I'm not trying to be negative, so I'm going to try and spin this slightly. But our defensive performance was woeful. And attacking-wise, it felt very much, let's put it in the box and see what happens. There's been times over the past few years where we have been crying out for people, just put a ball in the box, just have a shot from the edge of the box. It was lacking in quality, wasn't it? Defensively, though, is where I was really worried about, was actually watching that game back. I really was. But I think if you look at the balance of the game, and we talked about how we need their mentality to shift, at half-time I actually posted and I said, this has to be a line in the sand. And that wasn't necessarily at the manager, at the players, at anything. But I thought, going in at half-time, we talked about it last week, for the first time from the beginning of the game, saw a group of people who didn't believe in what they were doing and didn't believe they could get a result. They were just going through the motions. And at half-time, they clearly had a rocket, and that's been enough to spark them into life. I wouldn't say it sparked loads of quality, but it certainly sparked them into life, and the greater desire won.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, we've got the match ratings up on the screen. I don't necessarily agree with them this week. I think they're a little bit skewed because obviously we ended up winning the game. I thought we relied on Toth too much. I mean, the fact he's got 6.8 there, I think, is a bit wrong. I thought he kept us in the game at times, made some cracking saves. I mean, we can talk about how Armstrong should have scored, but he made some cracking saves there. It was just missed chances for me, and it was both teams. Both teams were suffering, and that's where I was talking about this football quality thing, where you don't seem to need to be that good at football anymore to have a career.
No,
and this game kind of showed it for me. I was very disappointed with the missed chances because it seemed like a confidence thing more than anything else. So, like O'Hash's, for example, the little side foot past the post. It just seemed like a lack of confidence, and I know that it must be really difficult for the players to have this many poor results or results not go our way, and then to play in front of a crowd which is expecting response and energy. But it just looked like it was lack of confidence, and all I kept thinking in that first half and going into second half was we just need a bit of luck. And we got it. We did get that bit of luck. But first half, I just thought it was only going to go one way, and that was going to be that Southampton were going to come out and just be confident, and we was going to be on panic stations, and it was going to be a toxic atmosphere. The subs happened, and it seemed like the crowd turned then.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think you can't trick supporters, and the first half performance was lacking in belief. It was lacking in. I think people sometimes get the two confused. Though it's a bit like I talked about with Cantwell last year. People think at times he's not working hard, but actually it's that extra little X factor that you've got a burst of speed, sometimes through your actual speed, but sometimes just that desire. And it's I'm doing it, I'm giving everything, but they didn't have that next gear to give. And that's belief, that's confidence. Or Hashi snatched at that shot at the edge of the box. He could have took a touch, he could have had another effort. Second half, there was one that ended up getting stuck under his feet. Marishta took an age, and it looked composed, but actually it wasn't. He was trying to wait for it to be the perfect moment, and in the end, how he's missed, I don't know. Adam Armstrong's done the same for them at the other end, and people were putting mortgages on it around me that he'd score. But when the subs happened, I think it was already turning. After that first half, it was already turning. The fans had decided, do you know what? He's not even getting them up for the first half now. We've seen this before, but normally we've had a decent first half and then it's a terrible second half. So we've seen this before, but now we've started horrifically. And he brought the subs on that he did. And whether you think Maktar Gay is the next coming of Alan Shearer or not, he is a striker on the bench and we look like we can't score. He's gone almost back to, well, I'm going to bring on some midfield with the greatest respect to Christy Montgomery right now. He's not Patrick Vieira. He's coming into the team as a young boy and has looked all right. I feel I said last week. I feel for him, he's been shoved here, there, and everywhere. But you're asking him to come on and almost change again now. And we put him in the 10 role during midweek. You bring in Hedges on, who, as much as me and you appreciate what he does, he's not going to start beating 3 or 4 men. These are not exciting subs that you think
they're not game-changing subs.
They're not going to win you a game, you think. And in some respects, and we'll obviously go into it, how wrong we were. But yeah, that point, had the result not gone this way, I think actually the board might have been forced to act because they turned completely against Ismaël at that point.
Yeah, it was proper toxic, and social media was on full meltdown. Now, I think the thing is when you've got a team in front of you and they just don't seem to be energized, they don't seem to be passionate, they don't seem to be organized in a way that we can see. Like you say, fans aren't stupid, and I'm not saying that we're football experts in general, but we, like you said, we're not dumb. We can see when things aren't working, and things weren't needed to change. And like you said, the three names you've got there, Hedges, Montgomery, Henriksen, when they're coming on, you've got to feel sorry for the manager a little bit that he hasn't got the game changers on the bench.
Yeah.
And he looked at his bench. Gay, we have been up and down with Gay previously, mostly down, if we're being honest. If he's looking at him and he's not the answer, then I'm not being funny. Just don't even have him on the bench. Just put someone else on the bench. You know, we should have just got rid when we did, and it's obvious that in January he's probably going to be gone. But fast forward, Montgomery had a good game, and he seemed to be one of the ones that actually changed it. But it was that little bit of luck we needed. And when Alabiosu cuts inside on his left foot, as much as he can use his left foot, none of us expected that to go in. But I think when something like that happens, and this is going back to what I'd said before, we've seen over the past few seasons little moments in games that have triggered a change of luck going into other games. And I think it was the Sheffield Wednesday one last year where we was 2-1 down and got the 2-2 draw.
We were 2-0 down, and ironically, Mikey, John, who was it right back? It must have been Callum Britton, you'll presume. But anyway, they got injured, or JRC, and on came Christy Montgomery at 2-0 down at half time.
Well, there we go. There we go. He's a game changer. We need him more. But so you have these moments where it can just change something. It can go your way. And I think this is that Sheffield Wednesday game where actually clutching a result out of nothing could change everyone's perspective on the team. So that could be from a fan's perspective, a player's perspective, coach, whatever. And I'm hoping this is it, because when Alabiosu cuts inside and swings that left foot and it goes straight in, that's when you know, do you know what? It can be our day today. And it changed everything. The atmosphere changed. The way we played changed. There seemed to be energy. There seemed to be, I don't want to say inevitability that we was going to go on to win, because we're Rovers and that's not what we do. But it did seem like, actually, if that can go in, why not us? Why can't we? Because Southampton were completely just shrinking then.
Yeah, I think you look at their names on paper and you would have said they are absolutely the favourites when you saw them performing. I mean, Adam Armstrong, the way he's performing, I think if someone had said to us the other week, we probably even did say this, if you could pick one former player to make the big impact right now for you, of course, Adam Wharton's a world beater. But actually, in our team, somebody like an Adam Armstrong is exactly what we need. Having watched him at weekend, I don't know what's happened to him. But I'm going to go back to the subs, because you're right, the goal did obviously come out of nothing. And without that, nothing happens in terms of the game pattern doesn't change. But I am going to go to the subs, and I think you're absolutely right to point out that the manager has looked at his bench there, and should he have had different people on? I mean, if Mac Targay is not going to come on the pitch, there's an argument for having a Taj on or something, but the 21s have played that day in the morning, and he needs games, does Taj on. There's no point in being sat on the bench. I think this is where my argument of you should have kept Harry Leonard instead comes in, and I know he's not scored at Peterborough, but forget that. So he looks to his bench, and he's looking at what's going on in the team, and he's thinking, right, how do I change it? So he's not got a person on there with absolutely outstanding individual quality that's maybe coming back for an injury. You know, when we used to have Bradley Dack on the bench and you think, well, he's not the same, but we might get a moment of quality. That's not on the bench. But what he has got, he's got Christy Montgomery, who came on for Tronstad. Tronstad had one of his worst games of the season. I think he's really struggling at the minute. We talked about it at Charlton, but he's lacking in belief. He's lacking in energy. I think we're almost asking him to do too much physically is part of the problem. And I'll come on to that when we talk about the defence. Marishta had missed that chance, but did okay. I think that 10 roll suits him a bit better. But Henriksen just has this, I think you described him as an excited bunny or whatever, didn't you, the other week? He's just got this
like
energy.
A dog in a field.
That's the one. And he's just excited to get in the box, make an effort, put a challenge in, run beyond. And it's not, I mean, there might be outstanding quality in there. We're not seeing it right now. But what it does give you is this, there's a chance of something happening because he's never going to let that go. He's going to chase that ball down. He's going to run in beyond when it's 90-10 that the keeper's going to get it. He's going to do these things. And then Hedges, I thought Dineva had another decent game. He's got loads of energy. He's exactly what we said the other week. He needs to work on his final ball. He's unorthodox. He seems to bumble through at times, but he's bundles of energy. He's loads of pace. And he causes the problem, and he's given us a threat down the left-hand side that we haven't had. But Hedges came on and gave him a little bit of quality. However, we get 10 minutes down the line, roughly, and nothing's really happening. Alabiosu cuts inside, hits one of the worst crosses I've seen in a long time. Ryan Hedges manages to shrink smaller than I thought it was humanly possible for a man about 6 foot to ever shrink. And the keeper, who is, I think, older than ourselves, has looked it and gone down in stages. But that is what it took. It was going to beat it off someone's backside. It was going to be the bar and it in the back of the keeper. And we took full advantage of it.
Yeah, it's a classic case of you needed that a bit of luck just to change your perspective on the game. And we talked about it previously that we wasn't getting the luck. We broke down every single result this year and we were saying, well, if this had gone our way, that had gone our way, things would be different. And it was a game where it did go our way, and we now need to capitalise on that. We now need to try and get a couple of results based on this. Now, we do go and get the winner. We had opportunities to put this game to bed earlier, but like we said, so did Southampton, but we reacted. And it wasn't like it was the Alamo or anything like that, but I just was so chuffed that it was Gudjohnson that got the winner. Because as a striker, your bread and butter, what you are paid to do is score goals. And it wasn't the greatest goal in the world, but just the fact he was in that position and he took his chance was great, because so far, other than seeing a few glimpses of his strength and his positioning and some of his ability, he hasn't got the goal, and this was the goal. And I was so chuffed that it was him, because hopefully it now kicks on for him to go and get more goals.
Yeah, I am really glad that he stayed on the pitch for the starter, because the option is, should bring Gay on for him. Ohashi obviously had gone for a bit of a swim, but was staying on the pitch. And Ohashi's full of energy. And sometimes he does some things and you think, that's pretty decent quality. And then other times I think you are bang average. But Gudjohnson, I'm watching, and because he's not scored and he's not a player who's just hit the ground running, you're almost watching him in more detail, if that makes sense. What player have we got here? And I was really watching him on the weekend. You just look at his first touch. Not only is his first touch out of his feet, whether it's on his chest or with his feet, but he always then is in the right body position, so he lays it just to the right side that he wants to for the next pass. He's thinking a couple of steps ahead. That's a bit of quality there. Some of the little flicks he does, they're not just aimless flicks, they're with purpose. But he's big, he's strong. He's got a little bit of everything. We just need to see the goals, which is obviously a key part of it for a striker. But I think that will come. I do think Andri Gudjohnson is going to be a really good signing for us. Not just because I've got him on my third mug, which you may win soon, but he just has this little bit where you go, he looks like somebody who's not scored, but has the quality, and you know it's going to come. Even though we've not seen him score yet, I have this. I wasn't going, get him off the pitch. Why have we signed him at all? I watch him and I think it'll come this. I really do.
Yeah, they call it a positive touch. So when the ball's coming to you, you've scanned, you've created that space, you see where you want the ball, and creating that positive touch. It's something that's frustrated me with Cantwell, because I feel like his is more negative sometimes. His is more, and that's just the position he's in. It's more, what can I do once, like take a touch, have a look, then make the pass, rather than thinking, like, make that positive touch. Whereas Gudjohnson, you can tell, does have that. Ohashi, yes, I love Ohashi. I think he's not necessarily a natural goal scorer. I think he's a great support player. my concern is with the likes of the Ohashis, the Marishtas, and even the Gays, is they used to have this really infectious character that seems to have shrunk. Marishta's the one that I'm really worried about because it hasn't taken us long to break him, to lose his infectious character. But maybe he thought it was going to be easier and he realises how difficult this league is. I don't know. But I was a little bit worried about some of the demeanour of some of the players again. And I just hope that things change. I really do. And I've used that term hope quite a lot because that's all we've got as fans, really. When you're fourth from bottom and you're not exactly firing on all cylinders and things seem to be going wrong, when you get a result like this, that it does give you that little bit more hope. And to have it Gudjohnson scoring the winner and still looking physically, like he wants to be there, that's great. I just want to now see Ohashi and Marishta get a little bit of luck on their side as well.
Yeah. I think when you watch, and I'll urge people to watch, they're on YouTube for free, the extended highlights. It's enough. Don't watch the full game. And just have a look at when Adam Armstrong gets his chances. I think it's the second one in particular. I paused it to see where our defenders were because they're not on shot. And then it does a sort of a Toth view of the pitch. Lewis Miller is playing right centre half. He was the furthest man forward and he wasn't taking a throw in. That wasn't why he was there. McLaughlin was sort of probably in the number 10 role. And Scott Wharton, who we have said time and time again, Scott Wharton's loads of strengths. But one of them isn't being turned and running that way. Poor Taylor Gardner-Hickman's had to run beyond everyone else because he's about the only chance we've got of somebody getting back. It was Gung-ho, and that is in the 66th minute, the second one. Mm-hmm. It was at 0-0, so there was a real desperation to get a result. But I do think we've got to have more organisation. There was a real loss of shape, and those chances for Southampton were good ones. They didn't come from a really good bit of play. They came from us being pretty gung-ho. And I get that.
That shows the desperation, doesn't it?
And that's what I was going to say. At that stage of the game, at 0-0, 60-odd minutes, I mean, I'm glad they want to win, but they've got to do it in a more controlled way. But I think we have to look at this now and say, right, there's a line in the sand. That half-time had to be that line in the sand for me. It was a tipping point. You could see the way it was going. It's gone our way. I want to see now the likes of Gudjohnson look a bit more confident, like he did at Watford. Marishta at Watford, he looked like he owned the place after 10 minutes. For 10 minutes, he really struggled. He adjusted really quickly, and then he had a real impact. I'm not seeing him adjusting in games. And like you say, that infectious character, he seems to have wilted. He doesn't look the tallest. I think he's about 5'8". He looks shorter than that in his demeanour at the minute. He's just really playing within himself. And I get the confidence thing, but the fans, all right, weekend, it wasn't massively in favour of the manager and our owners. But they're not getting at the team like I have seen in the past when you are doing as poorly as we are right now. So I think they need to just have a little bit of mettle about them. And I saw that at half-time. And I'm glad I've seen it that way around once again. We saw it against Stoke. We've seen it here. And if they've got that, they will be okay. It's just we need a bit more than that because it's going to be a bloody uncomfortable season if it's just okay.
Yeah, to be fair, you said 0-0. We were 1-0 down when we went gung-ho, in the second half. But, I mean, we had... We just had that panic stations. I think because we'd made a bit of an error for the goal, it wasn't going our way. We was missing chances. I felt like the halftime speech was along the lines of, do you know what, boys, just get out there and just do what you need to do. Just go for it. It didn't seem like anything tactically changed too much. It didn't seem like we were looking to do anything majorly different. And this could go back to the fact that Ismaël's been saying that he's been happy with the performances. And at the end of the day, whether what we believe doesn't matter. It was what he believes. And if he believes the performances are there, then he might be thinking, do you know what, I don't actually need to change it. I'm happy with the fact that we're only 1-0 down. And I felt like, and you could argue and say he was proved right. He didn't make a hell of a lot of changes. We still got opportunities. And then when he realised that it wasn't necessarily going our way, I'll make 3 subs and we go and win 2-1. So ultimately, he was proved to be right. And, whether we build on this and whether that continues is another thing. I mean, we've said in the past that when we look at everything that's happened this season, the changes don't seem to have made a positive positive difference, but they did today. We did on Saturday, and I think there was an element of Southampton folding. I think there was an element of us showing a little bit more energy after the subs. And I think there was an element of us getting a little bit lucky. But I'll take it. That's football. That's sports. You can't play every single game to the maximum ability and expect everything to be tactically perfect and that every single win is earned from minute 1 to minute 90. I think we've just got to build on the fact that from a mental standpoint now, that the guys know on that pitch that the game can change. And they're professional footballers. They should know this. But this is where Ismaël now needs to motivate them and say, look, did we deserve that win? Maybe, maybe not. But ultimately, we got the win. So we now go into the Leicester game, a very difficult opposition. It's away. Obviously, we've had a couple of good results there over the past couple of seasons. But with how we're playing now, it's going to be a very difficult place to go. So, but before we do leave the Southampton game, we do start talking about the Leicester game. I'm going to ask you about your 3-word reactions because I did see a few that did make me chuckle this week.
Yeah. It took some sieving through, Mike, because they were not the most PG. Let me just try and find the one that I did want to share. Well, we had a Mike Beaty said changing fortunes. We had a we are back. I'm not sure if that's sarcastic or not. Definitely can't read that one. We had quite a few saying Venky's, Pasha and Rudy out. That's 4 words, but I think the one that I'm going to go with was JS10. Armstrong's blue and white army. He added the army bit in his second one, just to clarify for those who pick up. So it's Armstrong's blue and white was basically what he was saying originally.
So I used to ask you whether you was happy with performances or not, and we kind of moved away from that question. But I'm going to ask you this time whether you was happy with the performance, and then we'll move on to the Leicester game.
No,
I wasn't. But I don't think anyone. I don't think anyone was. I think what I was happy about was the response in those last 30 minutes. But as from a 90-minute game, we can't be happy. We can't say that that's a game. The whole game is something that we can build on because we missed too many chances. There was too many errors, and I thought Toth saved us far more than he had to. But if you can have a game like that and win, surely mentally we can build.
Yeah, I've seen a number of teams at Ewood this season, and I've not been that impressed with many of them. I think there's some mediocre teams in this league, and I think sometimes it's about will. One thing I think we should probably mention, it was the 3rd game of a 3-game week, wasn't it? So I always go back to even when we had our really good Rovers teams, you would always see a lull in that first half. There was a lack of energy. Now, obviously, we've got a full week before the Leicester game. It's another 3-game week. He's got to use this squad. He's got to find a way of keeping the energy levels in it. Hopefully, Campbell's back. But yeah, we will see.
Yes. Well, that's part of the injury stuff we need to discuss a little bit later on, but hopefully we'll be back. But we are moving into a game against Leicester where oh no, that's the wrong one. I'll see if I can just get that. There we go. There we go. Right. So as we can see, we've not exactly had the best form, but then again, neither of Leicester. They've managed to get some results early, which has put them obviously higher up the table. but they're not in the best of form, but we can't ignore their quality.
No. I think they're a team that I was unsure about going into the season. Some people, I saw them predicting that they could even be a Luton. They'd lost a lot of players, and what was left was not the Premier League quality that you probably associate with a team that's recently been in the Premier League. But I point to their manager. I think Cifuentes has been a really good manager at QPR. I think he got something out of QPR from nothing. He really did. And I thought they'd be okay with him. How well they do, I wasn't sure. Like you said, they've had a really good start. And then for those who are just listening, in the last 5 games, they've drawn 2, won 1. And then the last 3 games, they've drawn against Portsmouth. And then they've lost against Hull and lost against Millwall. 2 tricky games away from home. You can lose those games. But I think what we're looking at there is a team similar to us. Most games are 1-1, 2-1, 1-0. There's not many goals in this. It's going to be 4-4 now, obviously. But I think if we go and keep it tight and don't go too gung-ho, their crowd are going to be on them, aren't they? That's the other thing. You've got to remember Leicester are currently 10th in the table. Their fans, all right, they might have had a turnover. They might have lost some of their key players. Want to get back in the Premier League. They expect to be back in the Premier League. Probably wrongly, but they will not like it if it's 0-0 at half-time and you get to the 60th minute and they're not creating. So it's flipped a little bit here, and I think we go and play on that for me.
Yeah, I mean, they have lost some key players, but they have still got quality. They are set up well. They do like to control the game. I think the fact that they're home, it's a midday game, could change things a little bit. But we just don't know. We just don't know. My prediction is that they will just want to control the game, and we will probably sit back, let them do it, try and keep it tight, and then try and grab something on a counter attack. I can't see us going there and trying to get at them. I think the fact that we've got this result Saturday against Southampton is going to give Ismaël a little bit of leeway to be able to go to Leicester and probably be that little bit more defensive. I think he's going to set up quite deep and let Leicester control it, but just not have opportunities, and then try and get something on the break.
Yeah, I don't think we've got another way of going. I don't think we can go and outplay them at the minute. Again, I'm looking at this. For those who used to do Hitch's bets, I have a look at all those sorts of stats. They've no winning 3. So again, that goes into make them uncomfortable, make them nervous. They are going to want an early goal just to settle their nerves. You've got to do that. Neither team's had a clean sheet in 6 as well. So if it's 1-0, we know what we feel like in the 60th minute. Oh, if we miss a chance, oh no, that's going to bite us on the backside. There's things in this mentally that we are familiar with that we can exploit in Leicester here. I think it's going to be.
But has he got the confidence to do that though, to go and actually pressure them? Do you think, based on what you've seen, do you think he's got the balls to actually go there and attack them?
Yeah. I think when I've looked at the way we've played over the season, I think I think the setup will look very similar. But I expect him to go the players that are full of energy. If Cantwell's not fit, it'll be Henriksen, I think. And I think he will say, right, for the first 10, we get at them and press high and be compact. Be careful you don't get caught in behind. So no Miller and McLaughlin in the number 10 role, but just press them really, really high. If that's after 10 minutes, if it's 0-0, that's fine. Just get back in your shape. But the key here is the distance between our strikers and our defenders. That has to be compact. When that's not, which it wasn't at weekend, if that's not compact, they'll play through us and they'll be in behind. So if we are pressing high, we just need to be careful where we're playing, which potentially lends itself to, Miller's got a bit of pace, but you could argue the toss that maybe you play somebody else at the left centre half, because McLaughlin, for all his strengths, isn't the quickest. I think he will. I think he will do for 10 minutes. I don't think he'll change shape, but I think for 10 minutes in his personnel, you will see people that are capable of playing quite a high press game, and then I think we will go back into we only press once they get in our half.
I hope you're right. I'm just a little bit concerned that he's feeling a little bit defensive at the moment himself, and that's going to show itself on the pitch, where he's going to be more bothered about the fact that if we go for it, we're then going to lose 2-3-0, and it's going to be quick goals as well, and that's a concern.
I mean, if he's in self-preservation mode, and I would argue that 60 minutes, 65 minutes into the weekend, if he'd have done a straw poll of supporters, he'd have been out. As much as everybody still says, I don't think it's his fault mainly. That would lend itself to going and saying, well, do you know what? If you get a 0-0 at Leicester, that's a decent result. So that would lend itself to that sort of approach, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because obviously we've got Bristol away the game after, which isn't exactly the best place to go to straight after. That's why I was kind of thinking, if he goes there and goes for it and then we end up losing, and then we go to the Bristol game where chances are we're not exactly going to go there and go for it either. I just have this gut feeling that he's going to be just trying to get something out of that Leicester game that then gives it, from a defensive point of view, just if it's a draw, it's a draw. He'll take a 0-0. And then if the Bristol game, he's kind of got that free hit.
Well, Bristol are absolutely flying, aren't they? They're obviously fourth in the table at the minute, scoring. They've got 22 points. They are probably arguably the toughest of the 3-game week. And then we will have a podcast in between this, but then we head on to our 150th anniversary game against our B team. So it's a tough run. And I said last time I felt he would be judged after that derby game going into the next international break. He was on the brink for me. Maybe not in terms of the ownership, in terms of the directors. I think the fan base nearly went at weekend. I think there's the majority, when you sit back and talk to them, understand that it's probably not all his fault, and that he is, he looks at the bench, and I think, ironically, Football Manager's just come out, hasn't it, recently? I think a lot of our supporters will have a newfound respect for him when they start trying to play as Blackburn Rovers. But I think if he goes and loses the next 3, which is very plausible against Leicester, Bristol, and Derby would just be sod's law, then I think that could be, there's no coming back for that from him. Conversely, it quite easily could go and get a result at Leicester. I think that's one of them games where they are struggling at the minute. The fans will be on them. It's 12:30. Never bet on the 12:30 kickoff.
No.
So, I have a sneaky suspicion we will not leave there empty-handed.
Yeah, I've got my thoughts that it's going to be a draw, and it's going to be a very poor quality, low scoring draw. And like we said, we've just probably jinxed it there, and it's going to be a 5-4 win to someone. I just got that sneaky suspicion that he feels like the 2-1 win at the weekend is something he can build on with a solid performance here, and just think, right, there was a little bit gung-ho, there was a little bit of panic stations in the last game. Let me solidify this game and just control the game. Don't worry about too much trying to get the ball up the other end. And like all good plans, it could be completely smashed in the first couple of minutes if we go and get a goal, or they go and get a couple of goals, whatever. I just think that his idea, it could be just to try and get something out of this. So then it buys him a little bit more time, because like you say, and we will come into it next week where we go into some pretty tough games there. For starting lineup wise, if Cantwell's back, he obviously comes straight back into it. Are you changing anything else?
I think Montgomery deserves a start. I thought he came on at weekend and really pushed the game in terms of getting in people's faces, high energy, and he's not exactly fighting against two midfielders who are setting the world alight right now. I think Gardner Hitman is what Gardner Hitman is. For me, he's a downgraded Lewis Travis. And yet he's still probably our first choice midfielder. And I think that tells you all about the quality you need to know. Right now, I think Tronstad's struggling with the physicality of it. He doesn't look overly thrilled to be out there every week either. but I would just mix it up. I would go lots of energy. I'd actually leave Cantwell on the bench. I think it's a 3-game week. He's been out. Is he even back fit? Who knows? I would go Henriksen for the energy, and I'd go Montgomery for the energy. I think that they came on and changed the game. Now, it wasn't through loads of quality, but I think if you're going to try and get some positive mentality in a team, if you come on and you're losing 1-0, as you quite rightly corrected me, and they come on and then win the game 2-1, they deserve to start the game. Henriksen, Deneva and Hedges slightly different. Probably would go Hedges this game just for that bit of nous. But I could also see the logic in Deneva and having lots of pace just to worry them and give them something to worry about, even if you sat in just on the counter.
But if we are 0-0 or losing 1-0, Deneva coming off the bench, as we've said in the past, it's quite terrifying. Anyone with pace coming on. And we've lost Gargbo for a bit. Some people may make comments on that one, whether that's actually a loss or not. But I think Deneva's shown enough to come on and actually terrorise defences that little bit with a little bit more quality, if I can use that word. Yeah, I need to see more from Gardner Hickman, but I think I want to compare him to Travis. We need to get some stats on that off F-Scout actually. But I don't think Tronstad's offered enough this year.
No.
I think he's missed Travis. I think you're right in what you're saying there. I'd quite happily have Gardner Hickman and Montgomery starting in that centre mid, just to see what happens, and let Tronstad have a bit of a time on the bench. We've said he doesn't offer a hell of a lot going forwards. It's not like he's a swashbuckling defensive midfielder either. He's someone that kind of links the play, as in Tronstad. So if you've got people that aren't really working with him, then you've just got to change it up a little bit, and it could be Tronstad for Montgomery for me as well.
Yeah, I'm going to caveat it slightly, Mark. I do think that Tronstad's been unlucky. I said in pre-season, Tronstad was on the wrong side of the two midfielders. His strengths are all about getting the ball off the back four, nicking the ball to break up play and sending somebody on their way. We've had him on the right-hand side, and I know people might think, oh, one of them's got to play. The difference being Elebiosu plays about 50 yards further forward than our left-back does when we played in a 4. When we're playing in a 3, it's still usually Hedges or Deneva who's a little bit more defensively savvy, and we tend to play down the right-hand side. Tronstad's been asked to cover so much ground. I remember watching him in his first might have been his second pre-season game at Fleetwood. In fact, I think it was his second. When he joined, and I said straight away, I'm worried about his physicality. Touching things we've seen, but you've got to play to his strengths. I think we are exposing him a little bit and I'm not defending this person too much, but when we asked Danny Murphy to come as a 33, 34-year-old and said, play as a box-to-box midfielder in a two-man midfield, you've got to work to people's strengths a little bit. And I think we are exposing Tronstad's weaknesses rather than using his strengths. That said, he's still been poor.
But then again, half the squad has more than half the squad, so we can't call him out as an individual. I think some of these players that we do call out, not necessarily call out, but some of these players that we are mentioning, it's just because they're our best players, and this is what we expect. And you need your best players to be rising, trying to raise the people around them, raising their game and grabbing games by the scruff of the neck. And maybe that's not his game, and that's okay. But we can't. If we've got someone that's coming off the bench and actually offering something, and we've said we want our young players to be given an opportunity, maybe this is Montgomery's opportunity.
Yeah, and I think there's a time, maybe not yet, but I do think there's a time here to look into the 21s, look into the 18s even. And if somebody is just giving you something a little bit different out wide or up front, bit of pace, you might as well give them the exposure of even if you're not planning on bringing them on, you're not planning on bringing Gay on, you may as well just expose them to a first-team environment. And if actually then you're 2-0 up by some miracle and there's 10 minutes to go and it's all comfortable, you can give them 10 minutes, can't you? I think I'm going to urge people, whoever hasn't done, go and watch our 21s and go and watch our under-18s, because we have a 14-year-old knocking around in there. There's a 16-year-old. What we basically do is we play our under 18s is basically an under 16s, and our 21s is basically an under 19s at most. And there's some exciting talent there. I don't think they're quite ready, so I'm not saying blood the youth when we're struggling, but you might as well expose one of them to a first team environment as Abmaktar Gay taking the space if you're not going to use him.
100%. 100%. Well, people put their comments down below. What do you think the result's going to be against Leicester? What would you do? What changes would you make? All of that stuff. Start the conversation down below. But we did have a competition, Mark. I'm going to hand it over to you to announce the winner.
We absolutely did, Mike. I'm going to try and... Can you see my screen, Mike?
We can, yes.
Right then. So this is fancy, this, and we are getting big time. So the Terrace Store, who make lovely things, and now you can't see my screen, but like my mug. What else have I bought off them? I think I bought a bar runner off them at one point. Coasters. They've done a competition, and you can, let me get this right, you can win the Rovers third shirt, and you can have it customized if you want something on the back. You can have a play, you can have your own name, and we have asked people to like, subscribe, share the post, and on X, and these people have done so, Mike. Quite a lot of liked, commented, and not followed all three. It took me an awful long time to go through them all. It is absolutely correct, I can assure you. But we will go for the winner. Are we ready? Let's have a look. Oh, I feel like Bruce Forsyth. Oh, and it's Tom Berry 89. I will send you a DM on X. But that was exciting, Mike. I felt like a cross between Bruce Forsyth and Wheel of Fortune.
That was good, that was. Yeah, and thank you to the Terrace for obviously supporting us there and allowing us to have that competition. And thank you for everyone that got involved there. Obviously, it doesn't stop. If you can still keep sharing, liking, subscribing, doing all the good stuff for us, it is helping us grow and helping us do all the good stuff. We've only got one topic I've listed to talk about to finish this off, and that is the injuries. Again, we've got some more injuries. I'm not going to start a rant on the strength and conditioning, don't worry. But we have got Cargbo that has now gone into the physio room to join Hayden Carter, and we are getting Cantwell back. Are these injuries anything to be concerned about? Is it normal football injuries that we're seeing?
I think you have to look at who's injured to get the context of that. And I think Hayden Carter's been consistently injured over his Rovers career. I've seen the comments from Valerian Ismaël about Hayden Carter, and I actually thought, I'm going to stick up for him here. I thought he got some unfair press with that. And I think when you see them written down, the comments read horrific. If you'd seen the interview, particularly if you saw the interview first, and I'd urge you to go and listen to him, what he's actually basically saying is Hayden Carter has been in pretty good physical state at the beginning of the season and then again at Watford, and he's breaking down. We are looking at everything. So the club are now exhausting every option. He's basically had, your car goes in for a quick MOT. He's having his eyelash length examined. What could it be? Is his arms too big? Is his upper body too big for his leg? He's having everything the club could possibly do to try and find an inch of why is this happening? Can we stop it? So they've just said to Hayden Carter, listen, mate, for your career as much as anything, yes, we lose a great centre-half, but you're coming up to a contract renewal. You've got all the ability in the world to play in the Premier League. You need to go back to the drawing board at home and go, right, what could it be? I remember years ago, was it Ryan Giggs' hamstrings was put down to him having a sports car and all these kind of things. So they're just saying to him, listen, you've got to rule everything out from your bed to your distance. And people have had a pop. He wasn't digging Hayden Carter out here and saying his lifestyle wasn't great. That's the way it's been made out in writing, but he wasn't, to be fair. I think you look at Jake Garrett, he's had a few injuries, but he's been unlucky there. I think it's his knee. Baraji, obviously, we don't really count. Todd Cantwell's got a history of having knocks for 2 or 3 weeks. I think when you are out for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, some players wouldn't be out with those injuries. I think if you're out for 6, 7 plus weeks, generally means you've done a bit of damage that needs some rest or a clear-up injury. when you're out for 2 or 3 weeks, it's very rare it's a big injury. Now, it could be that you don't want to play on and make it worse. I see a pattern there with Todd Cantwell a lot, where he misses a week, 2 weeks, 10 days. Yeah. And then Cardboard has obviously gone and done an injury. They said it was his knee, didn't they? And he felt it a little bit on international, and it's been swelling up and he's gone out. So I'm not as concerned as I was last year. I've looked back at our injuries from last year. The majority came from overplaying. They came from playing 3-game weeks and not changing the people. They generally come from training, not games last year. So you've got to look at what we're doing in those training sessions. I actually think this year, if you look at our injuries, we've been incredibly unlucky. They are knees, which I'd still go back to. You've got to look at the surface that you're playing on. I think generally speaking, knee injuries and ankle injuries with twists, if you're getting a lot of them, that's not an accident. There's something going awry there. I think Carter is one on his own in the nicest possible way. I think they need to look at that and try and figure him out, because he tends to get hamstrings, backs, and we have quite a few academy players that come through with hamstring. JRC was another. And Adam Morton did his back for a bit. Harry Leonard did his back. There is a worrying thing there with our academy players. But anyway, Garrett, I think, was unfortunate. And yeah, I'm going to say Cardboard really is pretty unfortunate. It's international break. It's a knee. They can happen. So I'm not actually that concerned about the nature of them. How are you feeling?
No, so the reason I brought it up is I saw quite a few comments. I mean, I made a tongue-in-cheek comment as well on social media, but I don't think it's as bad as what we thought. Like you said, Carter, we know what we're getting with Carter, and it's a shame, because if he was a Dom Hyam of last year playing every single game, he wouldn't be with us. He will be making us some money and going high. I think for me now, the reason I wanted to bring it up, is I want to see some rotation. If we're not winning games, now we have won a game, I get that. But if we weren't winning games, why not just mix it up? Why not give someone else an opportunity? And actually come out and just say, look, if say Tronstad doesn't play and you bring in Montgomery in, you come out in the media and you protect your play and say, no, Tronstad just needs a break. So we're giving Montgomery a chance. And then if Montgomery plays well and then Tronstad comes back, you just say, look, he's playing really well. He's had a break. So he's just having a run of games. Tronstad will get his opportunity. You protect him a little bit differently. I just want to see us rotate. And if we was getting some really, really good results in a run of games where we wouldn't normally, don't mix it up, don't change it, that's fine. But if you are losing games, if you are having games where it's just not going your way, I just don't see the point in not mixing things up. And there needs to be an element of stability. I get that.
Yep.
For example, if you're a striker or a goalkeeper, I think there are two positions where you need runs of games. So goalkeeper, if you keep swapping the goalkeeper out, then I think that's very difficult for them. And I think from a striker's point of view, I think if you've had a decent run of games and you're not scoring, that's different. But if you're going to bring someone in, like a Harry Leonard, when we've talked about in the past, if you bring someone in that's relatively young, like a Gudjohnson, that you want them to have that run of games. And it's worked out this week, and it'll be nice to see how he builds on that. But like an Ohashi, a Marishta, someone like that, that's a relatively experienced player, I just don't. You just come out and you just say, they need a break, and put someone young in.
Fully agree. I think there's loads of ways you can sell it. I think you explained it perfectly. You can even just go, do you know what, we're just doing something different today. We're just different styles, there's different centre halves or whatever. I think part of the problem Ismaël's got there is, you could maybe level that at him for the midfield too, because it's been Tronstad and Gardner-Hickman almost consistently. I think he's struggling to do that everywhere else. The places you would want to do it is out wide because of the distance they cover. Well, we've got Deneva and Hedges have done that to some extent. But then you look at the right-hand side, and Alabiosu, the swap for him really would be play the one man who's playing at right centre half in Lewis Miller. Lewis Miller can't come out of the team because we know the right centre half. You could swap left-footed centre halves and left-footed fullbacks for fun. We've got such an imbalance in that area of the pitch. That's where there is a bit of a concern. I think there is an argument, and I was hinting at this before. I think McGottkin's decent on the ball, but I think maybe bringing a Harry Pickering back at left centre half wouldn't be a bad idea. Certainly in one of those 3 games.
Well, no, that's the thing, isn't it? He's someone that can play there, so why not?
Yeah, exactly. And I think he gives you a bit more pace. And what we saw from him the last time he played was somebody who just hadn't played football. Well, there's only one way to fix that. So I think I would be doing that. I think McGottkin's a bit of a pain in the backside anyway in terms of getting bookings and things. Tronstad's on 4 now, so he's going to have a natural rest very, very soon. Gordon Hickman's on 3. But I think part of the problem he's got here, to be fair to him, Mike, is Tavares has had his chance and has not taken it. He looks like he needs a rocket up his backside. He's got probably the more stability of the midfield, central midfielders that we've seen so far, and wants to coast through games and play like it's a 21s arena. He needs to pull his finger out his backside. He has got the ability. He should be, when we're not playing well, the one that you go, actually, can we drop him? And right now, he's struggling to get on the bench, and that's only his own doing for me. But I think you're right. I think we can mix it up. I'd like to see Montgomery given a chance. I think Gardner Hickman, as much as I don't think he's the best player in the world, has earned his right really in there, but kind of by default. I think, would you want to put Tavares in against Leicester? Because that's his old club. I can see the logic, but I'd be pretty miffed if I was Montgomery and he started ahead of me right now.
Well, I was going to ask that whether he'd be fit enough. So, as in Tavares, because he has obviously spent this time on the bench. It's a difficult one. I think when you've been playing like Tavares has, I think it's very difficult to put him in a game like this when Montgomery's come on and made a change. So, and I can't see them. I can't see them putting Tavares on. He just doesn't seem to trust him right now. But it could be a perfect opportunity. It really could. I quite like Gardner Hickman. I don't think I would have him as the right back that he's listed in the squad I'm looking at right now. But I think we do need rotation. And going back to the topic of injuries, I think it's preventive stuff that you just stop them getting injured before they happen. I think a lot of people don't realise how hard these football pitches are, and obviously they are stitched. There's plastic underneath, and all of this. It's not easy to run around on. So, if anything, it's not like football of old, where when the pitches got softer and so on, where you had a different kind of injury. They stay really hard pitches, and I'm pretty sure that the pitches they're playing on are made the same as well. So if you're playing on a hard pitch on a Saturday and then going and playing on the same pitch every single day, your body is going to be under that pressure. So we either prepare them from a strength and conditioning point of view, but I think we all admit now that I think every team has this problem just because of the way football's gone. Or you rotate, and I just want to see a little bit more rotation. I'm excited to see Baradji play, but it's going to be a while till we see him. And Tavares, it could click. And I think when it does click, it's going to be really, really good. I just want to see some rotation now.
There's a shout we're playing Tavares this week against Leicester. And if they do, even if it backfires on them, I'm all right with it because I think they will be going off his personality type. Some people will shrink against their old club. Some people will shrink when they've not been playing. Some people, it's exactly what you need. I'm hoping he plays for that factor because that tells us they think he's a character that thrives in the times when you. But
the trouble is, of what you said though, is he hasn't really shown that character. It's his character, not necessarily his ability, that has frustrated people because he has looked quite lazy at times.
Yeah, I won't say he was lazy, although that has been labelled. I would say he's got a lot of quality, and games 10 minutes goes by in a game, and nothing's happened for him. He's not even touched the ball. He's not been near the ball. Yeah, that's not good enough in centre midfield. And certainly a team like Blackburn, when we are not, it's not like we're dominating the play and things. I think he should be banging the centre. And if you're not getting the ball to your feet, go and smash someone in the air. Go and get out, go and get after them. And games go by, and I genuinely think I've seen 10-minute periods of games, and he's not touched the ball. That's just not okay as a midfielder.
No. Well, again, comments down below. What are your thoughts on Tavares? We've all seen enough of these players now. Is Tavares someone that you think should be coming back into the team now? He cost us some money, and for us, it was a chunk of budget. Do we now need to give him an opportunity to have his place back? Is it a Montgomery, or would you not change it at all? Do you think it's all about stability? Have the conversations down below, and hopefully next week we'll be talking about the points in the bag and how we shouldn't have rotated, or we should have rotated, whatever. But Mark, I think we've hit the hour mark. I think it's a good time to end it there. Are you excited about this week's football, or are you slightly nervous?
I'm going to go with excited. I actually think 12:30, wonderful time for football. What more could you want? Away at Leicester, I think. Be nice to see another set of fans getting a bit squeaky bum and a bit twitchy in on their team. And I want to see us thriving in that environment. I want to see loads of energy from us. And I want to see a really scrappy goal off Gudjohnson's backside. 1-0 win.
I'm excited as well. I think I'm just we said last week we was just waiting for something to click, and we're waiting for something to happen. Maybe this is the moment, and I'm excited to see how we respond after that 2-1 win. But Mark, thanks for joining me this week.
No worries, buddy. I will get in touch with the winner of our competition, and we will have this out as soon as we can. You have a lovely week, and hopefully ahead of a 3-game week next week, mate. So we'll review the Leicester game, we'll obviously preview Bristol City, and then 150th anniversary as a club.
And that is definitely one we are going to be nervous about. So we will break that one down next week. But everyone, thanks for listening. Do all the good stuff. Like, subscribe, comment down below, start the conversations. And hopefully next week it's more positivity. But until then, have a good week.